is in storm mode.
We've been keeping you alert to the fact that some heavy rain could create some flooding. Now there is a flash flood warning in St. Louis. A report from the National Weather Service is that they've heard a couple reports of mainly poor drainage areas where some cars have gotten stuck. And of course, we're so sensitive because it was just Tuesday morning. We had tremendous amounts of rain, 8 to 10 to 12 inches. This is not going to be that situation. However, because the ground is saturated, flash flood warning affects 1.1 million people right now. There's going to be some isolated poor drainage areas that fill up with some water. There's going to be some localized isolated flooding, ponding on the roadways. The great news is this is moving. Look at the radar in the last hour. It is going to move. So instead of stalling right over us and creating those epic rainfall totals from earlier in the week, this is going to produce maybe 1 to 2 inches of rain, but on that flooded out ground from earlier in the week, that can quickly create that ponding on roadways and maybe some poor drainage areas fill up with water. And in fact, if you look at the rainfall estimate of some of this, we're talking 2.2 inches in an hour. Now, not that it's going to be over you for an hour, but for a half hour, that's a quick inch of rain. And because it comes down so quick, and because the ground's so saturated, that can cause some issues. This is a view from BJC Skycam network from downtown. You see the Market Street and the raindrops there. Not seeing any issues down Market. 55 is moving along just fine. It's just wet right now, but when some of that heavy rain gets in, there could be some hydroplaning, ponding on the roads. So we're here just to give you that heads up, okay? There's also some heavy rain farther to the south, and we will continue to monitor all of this rain. As the front moves, it will move that rain south and out of the area. But in the meantime, it's pretty heavy. And I think we're all a little sensitive after what happened earlier in the week. So I'm going to stay on the live stream. So if it's the KMOV weather app, the KMOV news app, KMOV.com, I'm going to be there with you. We'll analyze the radar. If any new reports or incidents come in, I'll have it for you. But we'll have that for you online on the live stream. In the meantime, hope you have a safe afternoon. We'll send you back to programming.
Live from the KMOV Broadcast Center, News 4 is in storm mode.
So we should be on the live stream, and Tim, just let me know if, thank you, we're on the live stream right now. Let's go ahead and go to radar, Tim. Just get me graphics. That's really all I need here, and I'll let you know if we have to pop back in on Channel 4. Thanks for anyone that's on the live stream. Look, we have a flash flood warning. There's no severe weather, but a flash flood warning, heavy rain moving through the heart of our metro, impacting over 1 million people. And we just had, 8 to 10 inches, in some cases 12 inches of rainfall earlier in the week. So we just want to be here with you with this live radar look and report any kind of incidents that come our way. Let's see, one of which is, this is reported from the Fire Department and Rescue out of St. Louis City. This is 2 miles south of Uplands Park. Via Fire Department official on Twitter, they said a vehicle and motorist trapped in high rising water. That was 2 miles southeast of Uplands Park, and that came on Twitter. So there's going to be some of these areas that have poor drainage and can fill up as we get 1 inch to 2 inches of rainfall. And that's why this flash flood warning was issued. On a normal day, meaning without what happened on Tuesday morning, this would be some heavy rain, just ponding. But I think some poor drainage areas are actually going to fill up and present some issues because of what happened on Tuesday. Look at the radar here from Eureka, Afton, High Ridge, St. Louis City, all just getting hammered. Speaking of the city, there is a live view downtown from the BJC Skycam network. As you notice, the heavy rain. Let's see, Hodemont and Horton Place from St. Louis Fire Department on Twitter, vehicle motorist trapped in high rising water. That must be what the Weather Service was reporting. I have an instant message chat with them too, so as we get some storm reports, I'll push them to them. As they get storm reports, they push them out to everyone. We can kind of stay on top of things. Yeah, so Hodemont and Horton Place was that report. Page and Union, vehicle / motorist trapped in high rising water. So we're getting some reports, multiple now, at least 2, all courtesy of St. Louis Fire Department. Let's get a look back at the radar here. We're on the live stream. It's going to be a little more casual. I'm going to pause and kind of analyze the radar a little bit. So It's not as clean as you usually see on Channel 4 because I'm kind of analyzing everything real time, but I want to be here for you. If you're joining us on KMovie.com, the KMovie weather app, or the KMovie News app, we appreciate you clicking on that watch live and sticking with us. Okay, so the heaviest rain has actually moved out of St. Charles County. I think that's important to report because it kind of started out there. And that's also playing into why this is not going to be like earlier in the week on Tuesday. It's because this rain's moving. So while we have this really heavy band, it is very heavy, 1 to 2 inch an hour rainfall rates, it's not going to sit over us for an hour because it is actually going to move. But there could be some spots that get an inch and a half of rainfall, and obviously some flooding and issues already starting. Let's see, flash flood warning, that's in effect till 5:45, but let's see, it's 3 o'clock now. I'd say within the next hour to hour and a half is going to be the prime time in St. Louis City and in that flash flood warning. So it is moving. That's the good news. The bad news is it's really heavy. Let's see if the radar estimates are starting to come in. Sometimes there's a little bit of a lag. No, that's already starting to populate. And like I said, out in St. Charles County, the heaviest rains moved out. We did check in with the National Weather Service and asked about Dardine Creek. They said they expect it to rise quickly, but not to rise to bank full or flood stage. So again, Dardine Creek not expected to rise to bank full or flood stage. And again, the heaviest rain has already moved out of that area. This is just an estimate, but you see the yellow, that's 2 to 3 inches. So there could be some spots that got hit by a couple cells and got up over 2 inches from St. Charles City to Maryland Heights. Looks like there's a little pocket in the city here too. And of course, this is an area that was hit so hard from earlier in the week with 8 to 10 inches of rain. The 12-inch spot was really out northwest in St. Charles County, where, as I switch over to the radar again, the 12-inch area from Tuesday morning, you've got rain, but not nearly as heavy. And as I loop it, you'll see the heaviest rain has already moved south. So you're pretty much done with any of the heavy rain. Heavy rain continues, though, in the city, down southwest into the suburbs, down to Eureka, Crestwood, Webster Groves, Afton, all getting hit with some of that heaviest rain. The other thing, too, is if we're going to start to hear of some reports, you typically start to hear it on the back edge here. So while the heavy rain's just now moving into Oakville and Melville, if we're going to hear reports of some motorists that are stranded or stuck in some water, it's going to be back up here from Baldwin, Chesterfield, U City, Maryland Heights, up into North City, Ferguson, Florissant, because those are the areas that have been hit by some of this heavy rain, especially the city. See this right here? That little red pocket, that's pretty persistent in the last hour. It's moving, it's going to move out, but if I stop the radar and get an idea of how heavy that is, 1.9 inches an hour. So if it's over to you for half hour, 45 minutes, you're looking at 1 to 2 inches of rainfall. And that's why the flash flood warning has been issued. It's going to go till 5:45. The flash flood warning does go into St. Clair County and Madison County as well. So it does capture parts of the Metro East that are either getting hit now or really haven't been hit hard yet. I'm going to switch back over to the radar. The reason we're on the live stream is we were hit so hard earlier this week. I think we're all a little sensitive to more flooding, and I do think it can happen quickly, despite this not being a situation like earlier in the week. We have had already some reports of some motorists that are stuck, some ponding on the roads, and some poor drainage areas. Yeah, we've reported both of those. This one I have not, though. Here's a new one, North Tucker and Cass. Again, I was just pointing out the city, and I'm going to highlight it again for you here, is that several of the reports seem to be coming out right out of this area. This is North Tucker and Cass, another vehicle motorist trap. This is coming to us from St. Louis Fire Department. And also Natural Bridge between Hamilton and Darby. They're reporting rising waters, but didn't report any motorists stuck. So that's 3 reports of motorists that were trapped that the St. Louis Fire Department is now responding to. One at Page and Union, one at Hodemont and Horton, and one at North Tucker and Cass.
Do you have the 70 at city-county border flooding issues?
No. What's going on there?
We're working on getting a live camera there.
Okay, so on that northern edge of what I was just highlighting right here, right around 70, Interstate 70, right around the city and St. Louis County border. They're reporting some flood issues, and we're trying to get crews out there. Keep in mind, too, we're also trying to get our crews dispatched safely so that they don't have to drive into this and become part of the problem. So they're going to have to navigate that. Well, wow. Donna Miller is on Twitter. She's actually watching on the live stream, too. She says, thanks. My pleasure. Glad to be here for you and keep people updated on this. She's going to barely see the arch. She's downtown and can't even see the arch. In fact, here is the view of downtown, down Market Street. But I'm going to punch a couple buttons here, and we're going to switch that over to the arch. And that is our BJC Skycam looking at the arch there. And we're literally right across from it. Let me get some other views. Let's go here. This is BJC Skycam in Eureka. That camera looks a little frozen, doesn't it? But that's I-44 near 109. We're going to switch over to South County. This is 55 near Butler Hill Road. Checking in some of the other cameras. I don't see any major issues there. St. Peter's looks okay. The heaviest rain's moved out. O'Fallon, Missouri, heaviest rain has moved out. This is near 270 and 367. This is Christian Hospital. And you'll see in the distance there is 270. Right there is traffic that's moving eastbound. And they seem to be moving okay. I think the heaviest rain is actually south of that location, so it's more in the city. So we're talking like, 5 miles south of this location, and you've got issues and heavier rain. And let's see, Edwardsville's fine right now. This is from the Central West End, from the BJC Skycam network. We've got two, one at Barnes Jewish and one at Children's. This one's at Children's. But it really looks like that heaviest rain is right through the city, U-City, and then down into Afton, High Ridge. If you're in Eureka, you've been hit hard, and there's still some heavy rain to go. But this band right here is the heaviest, and it's still kind of working its way through the city. But, okay, hey, Tanya, thank you. We're on the live stream. Thanks for anyone who's joining us. We're on KMOV.com, the KMOV weather app. If you don't have the weather app, we pushed out an alert, I want to say maybe 2 hours ago, that this was a possibility, getting some flooding. So if you don't have that app, it can be handy. And then, of course, you have this when we do have serious incidents. And we'll pop in on Channel 4 from time to time if needed. But we've been on a couple times just to alert people. And, of course, on KMOV.com, you can watch it as well. So what's going on? Why are we here? Well, we have a flash flood warning, and we had 8 to 10 inches in this area earlier in the week and Tuesday morning. The 12-inch high totals were in northwestern St. Charles County out here, and the heaviest rain has moved on. We did check in with the National Weather Service about Darting Creek out there in St. Charles County. Expected to rise quickly, yes, but not to flood stage or bank full. And that's because, unlike Tuesday morning, where you get repeated cells, it's called training, hitting the area, this is really one line, and it's moving. And that movement is really the key, and we need it to move quicker rather than slower. But the fact that you see it moving here, east, a little bit southeast, means we're going to get it out of an area that was hit so hard very shortly. But in the meantime, while it's hitting, there's going to be some, not just ponding on the roads, but hydroplaning threat. There's going to be some poor drainage areas where it may be a viaduct, under a viaduct, a low spot. Maybe the drains were clogged because of what happened on Tuesday morning and they never got cleared. So for whatever reason, whether it be a low spot, clogged drains, there's going to be some water that fills up in these low spots, and people may drive into them. In fact, I know they have, because we've had some reports from St. Louis Fire about that. And I am just checking to see if they have anything new. Thanks to whoever's running St. Louis Fire. This is City Fire Department on Twitter. That's where I'm kind of checking out. Marcus in San Francisco, Delmar and Goodfellow. Those are two new ones. So that brings my count, I believe, up to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 reports that St. Louis Fire is responding to for vehicle/motorist trapped in high/rising water. Keep in mind, too, that sometimes this high rising water is very still. It's not swiftly moving. Swiftly moving is much more dangerous. typically when you're caught near a creek or a river. This is probably going to be a little bit different. It's more of just a viaduct, a low spot that has kind of filled up. And that can still be obviously very dangerous, but it's a little better situation than, say, a flash flood where you have swiftly moving water. But that seems to be what I think most of these fire department responses, first responder responses are too, is probably low spots, poor drainage areas that have filled up. Again, just letting you know, Marcus in San Francisco, and then Delmar and Goodfellow, another incident, Page and Union, Hodemont and Horton Place, North Tucker, and Cass. I mean, a lot of this is kind of, here's another one, 5300 block of Maple. This is all in really North City. I haven't heard, I don't think I've heard any that are South City. So I think what we're seeing is most of these incidents are kind of where the heaviest rain has just kind of come through right about here. And that means we may start to hear some new issues in the city, South City, down into Afton, Dutchtown, Oakville, Melville. You may start to hear some incidents there. And then, of course, the Metro East, you're just starting to get in some of that heavier rain. If you're in Edwardsville, the heaviest rain has passed you. Alton, heaviest rain's done. St. Charles, done. O'Fallon, done. Not done with rain, just done with any kind of threat of flood. I do always like to let folks know when the threat for any, dangerous weather has cleared you, because as much as we like to first alert you to weather that's dangerous, we also like to alert you to when it's in the clear. So I'm going to pop back and forth because I need to hop on that Twitter to check in some new incidents. But the one thing I want to do is switch over to the rainfall estimates. And it's just an estimate. So radar's not perfect, but it is an estimate that gives us an idea. Yeah, see that? The yellow and the oranges, and see the orange especially. I kept saying, hey, this is really like North City. Look at that. And that orange is 3 to 4. So the atmosphere is really squeezing a lot of rain. What's probably happened here, I'm going to look at the radar. I'll bet they got hit by a line, and then another one came in, they merged, and that just slowed the progression line in this kind of isolated area. Whereas in St. Charles County, you haven't heard of any issues because the line kind of formed and moved. It just moved out. This is probably the combination of two things colliding and just slowing the progression, but it is moving out. Notice here too, what we showed you on our BJC Skycam up in North County, Christian Hospital near 367, not as many issues. So it's really kind of focused, I think, right in this area, and especially this area of North City. So that is the radar estimated rainfall. It's not perfect. Gives you an idea of where some of the heaviest rain, and when you're in the heat of battle and you're just dealing with this on the spot, it's a great tool to check out and see where some of the heaviest rain, the biggest flood issues could be. Okay, here's some positive news. I'm going to highlight that same area right here, and you start to see some green. There's still some yellow, but what's not coming in are any reds. This is important because the rain's still heavy. This area is going to have flood issues. You probably want to avoid Interstate 70 through the north part of St. Louis City and right around the county border, okay? Avoid that area. But the rain's, I don't want to say easing up, it's still heavy, but it's not the red that represents the really heavy, intense rain. And in fact, if I stop it and get an idea of the rainfall rate that's coming in, 0.49. So this is a half an inch an hour. What was over North City was about 2 inches an hour. So it gives you an idea that the rainfall rate is starting to decrease. The reason this is important is because it's not a repeat of Tuesday morning in the sense that widespread massive flooding, creeks are rising and causing issues, but there are going to be, we said this last night, there are going to be some localized flooding issues that we're going to have to deal with. It just happens that that isolated localized flooding really focused right here on North City. And that's an area that was just hammered by heavy rain on Tuesday. In fact, if memory serves me right, we were probably in the 7 to 10 inch range, 8 to 10 inch range in this area. The 12 inch totals you heard of were in northwestern St. Charles County. That's done. I did mention too that let's see what time, 3:15, okay. I did mention too, I like to let folks know who are in the clear. St. Charles in the clear, Chesterfield in the clear. When I say in the clear, what I'm referring to is flooding problems from heavy rain. You may have some rain. Edwardsville in the clear from flooding problems. Not in the clear is downtown and a little bit south. Okay, this is a live issue. Thank you, Tanya. From the MoDOT cam. Look how slow traffic's moving. And then, of course, there's some traffic there that's not moving. What are we looking at? Interstate 70 there, Tanya? At the city-county border. Okay. So that's exactly the area I was just highlighting. I said avoid that Interstate 70 in the city and up to around the city-county border. That's the exact area I was saying let's avoid. This is why you don't want to get stuck in this. I don't know, I can't tell, but it looks like some of the traffic is being diverted off of 70, and then the part where we get the tail lights, the red lights, it looks like it's moving but slowly. So if we get some reports to kind of corroborate that, let me know, but I'm just, we're just taking it as it goes, looking at the picture and assessing, and I think what's happened here is part of Interstate 70, and I don't know if it's the eastbound or westbound lanes, it looks like it's shut down. And cars are getting diverted, and then the red taillights that are moving away from us are just moving really, really slow. This is 3:15 in the afternoon. Let's be glad this isn't at 5:15 in the heart of rush hour, but we're getting towards rush hour. As I zoom out on the radar, this is it. I mean, once this thing clears St. Louis, the threat for any additional heavy rains is done. Some areas are already done. And in North City, where we see that view right now of I-70 and some problems, and again, it's I-70 near the city-county border, the rainfall rate in that area has already decreased. They still have issues because so much rain fell, and that rain is creating and creating flooding issues in low-lying areas. So while this is moving and we still have issues, I just keep pointing that out because this is not like Tuesday morning where this was moving, but then another heavy cell was coming in, and then another, and we call that training. That's not the situation. That doesn't mean this isn't serious, and I think this wouldn't be right now as serious if we didn't have what happened on Tuesday morning, because there probably are some drains that haven't been cleared or that are clogged. The poor drainage areas and whatnot tend to fill up more easily when you've already had 8 to 10 inches of rainfall, which is what we had earlier in the week. Let me just step off for a second and see if St. Louis Fire Department is responding to any new issues. I don't see it. That's a positive there. Let's see. Let me refresh. No, Lindell and Union, so that's Central West End. Road is impassable. Please avoid this area. And this is great because we can be kind of a voice for St. Louis Fire Department to help keep people away so their first responders can do their job. And Natural Bridge and Marcus, high rising floodwater, road is impassable. Okay. All right, we're live in storm mode coverage. You're looking at a picture on the bottom left there of Interstate 70 right now, right near the city and county border. And I haven't had my producer corroborate this in my head, but we've been analyzing this in the live stream, and we still have folks on the live stream. You can always join us there too. But that picture looked like a portion of Interstate 70 was shut down because of flooding out. Interstate 70 is shut down. I don't know if it's westbound or eastbound lanes, but it looks like the headlights there are getting diverted off. And then the red lights, the tail lights, that other lane is actually moving. It's just moving really slow because there's ponding on the roads and there's still some heavy rain. The heaviest of that rain that just hit in North City, I'm going to highlight the picture we're looking at. So is right here. So the picture we're looking at is right here. The biggest problems we've had are generally right in this area. Look how Maryland Heights is now drying out. This is different than early on Tuesday morning when you get hit by one of these storms and then another one would come in. We call that training, and you get hit over and over again. This is different. However, because we've had so much rain earlier in the week, we're going to see ponding in the roads, low-lying areas flood quicker than normally because we had so much rain earlier this week. And that's happening right over this area that had 8 to 10 inches of rainfall from last week. What I'm going to do is look at the rainfall totals. It's radar estimated, but it really gives you a good idea when you're kind of in the heat of battle here, just trying to figure out where's the worst of it. Boom. That's 3 to 4 inches estimated rainfall. And then the yellow is 2 to 3. And I would say our biggest issues are right in this area. However, I pointed out here to the west, like in Maryland Heights, the heavy rain has ended. Let me switch back over to the radar. Okay, so we have a flash flood warning right here in St. Louis City. It's one of the reasons why we've been on the live stream, also because we're all just sensitive of what happened earlier the week, let's face it. So we wanted to just have a presence there to walk you through what's happening as this unfolds with heavy rain that will move out, but is moving through St. Louis right now. And we're on the air because we have 1.1 million people in a flash flood warning a few days after being hit by 8 to 10 inches. I mentioned that 8 to 10, you know there was 12 inches, but that was out here in St. Charles County, northwestern part of the county, and that area with the heaviest rain has moved out. So this is really focused on the city, parts of the county, Central West End. You're going to start to see some flooding potential in Kirkwood, Arnold, and maybe even into the Metro East. News 4 reporters are out on the streets trying to figure out safely what's going on out there. And I know that Paige Holsey has been in touch with our reporters. What's the latest, Paige?
Now, the issues that we're tracking, as you were showing us, are on major interstates in St. Louis. We now have reports of flooding on Interstate 64 near the area of the St. Louis Zoo. So that is right at Hampton. As Steve was just outlining a number of problems on Interstate 70 as well. As we give you this live look at the Gateway Arch from downtown cameras, you're seeing lightning strikes, and visibility is certainly limited in so many areas. And another look at Market Street in downtown St. Louis. Lightning strikes there yet again. Now, we do have a crew on the scene of one of the areas that is seeing flooding. We're going to try to get you out to them as soon as we can. I'm just trying to get word from our producers on where everything stands right now, as this continues to be a rapidly evolving situation now for the second time this week. Steve, we're going to send it back to you as we try to get in touch with our crew on the ground and also learn more about what interstates are dealing with flooding. As I said, Interstate 64 near the zoo, the most recent report that we have right now.
Yeah, and I'm checking some of my cameras too. This is Kings Highway because they said avoid Lindell near Union, and that there was water and impassable there. You can see this is moving okay on Kirkwood, on Kings Highway, but I think there's just going to be some low spots where it's not okay. So there's going to be some roads that seem just fine, and then there's going to be some roads that are really an issue. They've just expanded the flash flood warning, by the way, so I'm going to flip over to that. And it's basically taken it in deeper into the Metro East. This is also an area, especially right through kind of the southeast area right here, southeast of St. Louis, that got hit with some of the hardest rainfall from Tuesday morning. That would be that 8 to 10 inch swath. And so no doubt that it's a good idea to extend that flash flood warning. That flash flood warning goes until 7:30. And the initial one had impacted 1.1 million people. This one, about 360,000. So we almost have, 1.4 million people in a flash flood warning right now. It's not as bad as what we went through Tuesday, but we said this last night. We keep saying, but there's going to be some localized flooding, some isolated flooding. And indeed, that's happening. It just happens to be happening in St. Louis City, parts of the county. I think the city so far appears to be the worst off. I haven't heard of any major issues, out around, say, Chesterfield, Baldwin, Eureka, St. Charles. We did check in with the National Weather Service about Dardenne Creek in St. Charles County, where the heaviest rain has moved out. And they said it's going to rise quickly to bank full, but not flood stage. So that's really, really good news for St. Charles County that was hit so hard. The bad news is we need to get this heavy rain in St. Louis out. It is not out yet. But the good news is it's moving. So it's kind of a good and bad. It's not as bad as Tuesday, but we have issues. It's going to be short term where we're going to get low-lying areas that flood, and then the floodwaters will go down relatively quickly as soon as this moved out. I think this helps highlight where the worst of it is. North City, north of 40, Interstate 64, and right along 70. So I really think that Interstate 70 in the city is just kind of your guideline, and right to around the county border there. Just avoid this area. And I'm not talking about just the interstate, but, Natural Bridge, low-lying areas there. This is going to be where we're going to have probably the bulk of our problems. We also have reports, from St. Louis Fire Department, Engine 26 responding to 3 vehicles now trapped in high water. So the St. Louis City Fire Department has had a busy week, and they continue to have issues. And again, I really think a lot of this is going to be due to too much water, too short a time, and here's the key: poor drainage, low-lying areas. This is not like a river or a creek has come out of its banks and flooded an area. It's going to be too much water in poor drainage areas in a very urban area that actually might have some clogged drains from earlier in the week. Okay. And this is from St. Louis Fire Department, the 4700 block of Washington. They've got some people trapped in a dwelling with rising floodwater. When I say things that are that serious, too, I want to make sure I attribute that, let you know who this is coming from. St. Louis Fire Department on Twitter, 4700 block of Washington. So I think we're talking city, northern half of the city. So from downtown up north, the whole city up to the county line, and then out to the central west end as well. So that is rainfall estimate you're looking at, and I think that orange area of estimated 3 to 4 inch rainfall kind of helps give us an idea of where the worst problems are. If we zoom in a little bit more here on the central west end, that's one of the areas that had impassable water at Lindell and Union. It's starting to ease up, but it's still coming down. You still want to avoid it. Paige, what's the latest? We got reporters bringing us some new information?
That's right. We do have our David Ammalati on scene in downtown St. Louis at 14th and Cole. David, obviously pouring there, and we see the water level rising behind you. What's the situation?
Yeah, let's just pan the camera and show you exactly what's happening here. Like you mentioned, 14th and Cole, and you're seeing sewers backed up here. We've got water 6 inches or more deep here at this intersection. Pretty popular. A lot of folks have to go through this intersection to get to and from here in the downtown. And you're seeing some folks using some caution here with this high water. Some people a little bit more courageous. But we're seeing a sewer backed up right here at the corner. You're seeing that sewer spewing up. It was higher within the last 15 minutes. We're talking about spewing out like a fountain that you would see maybe in Forest Park. And what we're seeing now is that water coming up onto the sidewalk. But again, if I were to come about here, you're looking at about 6 inches deep just off the curbside. It's another 2 inches on top of the sidewalk. We've been here since about 3 o'clock. Really intense lightning and thunder, as we've heard Steve describe. And so we've been seeing that lightning here at this intersection. You can hear that thunder, that storm still actively above us. Probably the most cautious driver we've seen here since we've been here at this intersection. Again, here since 3 o'clock. We've seen the water rise a few inches since we first got on location. And even if you go down another block, we're talking about Tucker, high water down that way as well. Any intersection, any direction you look, you're seeing vehicles having to slow down and make the decision whether or not to go right, left, or straight to avoid the highest water in front of them. But you're seeing these folks having to slow down, maybe not realizing how deep that water is until they hit that water. Again, at 14th and Cole, that rain continuing to hear thunder, continuing to see lightning, and the water is only getting higher here. Again, we've seen it go 3, 4, 5 inches since we got here, and we've been on location since about 3 o'clock.
Yeah, David, we're going to see if that water continues to rise, we're going to see a very similar situation to what we saw on Tuesday, and that cars being faced with the decision, do they go through it or turn around? Of course, we never want to see them drive through high water like that. Some really good advice that we heard on Tuesday is if you can't see that paint on the road, if you can't see the lines on the road, then the water is too high. Don't drive through it and turn around. The water there bubbling up at 14th and Cole as you are watching a live picture from our David Ammalati in downtown St. Louis. Also want to update you on another situation that we are closely monitoring, and that is on North Kings Highway near St. Louis Avenue and Natural Bridge Road. The city of St. Louis telling us that there are multiple vehicles stuck. People have been safely have gotten out of those vehicles, but police are there on scene, so certainly avoid the area of North Kings Highway near St. Louis Avenue and Natural Bridge Road. Steve, do you have an update?
The update is that the heaviest rain is starting to slide southeast. This is really positive news. This is happening quickly. It will end quickly. In the meantime, avoid these areas that we keep mentioning, especially from downtown north that's been hit so hard. But even where you see some of the oranges and reds, the heavy rain, Metro East, I would not be driving on 255, Interstate 64 in Illinois. Let's just avoid it for right now. If you're in O'Fallon, Belleville, you're just now getting some of that heavy rain. So you could get some ponding on roads and low-lying areas that start to flood just like that, maybe within the next 20 minutes or so. But the good news is you're dry in St. Charles, Chesterfield, you're done. Maryland Heights, done with any heavy rain. And look at the around St. Louis and where some of that heaviest rain was reported, around maybe 2 to 3 inches possibly. So the rainfall rate now is much, much lower. Earlier it was around 2 inches an hour, and now it's down to about a half an inch an hour. Is that heavy? Absolutely, but it's not nearly as heavy. And look what's coming. The green, lighter rain. And look what's coming, dry. So this is going to end quickly, but in the meantime, you have to be diligent and stay off the roads. And just know, I mean, first responders are exhausted from earlier this week. Exhausted. And they're called to action right now because of this rain. Don't be part of the problem and don't make things worse for them in their lives. They're doing their best. This is going to end quickly. In fact, it's 3:30 now. I mean, I would say probably within the next 30 minutes, we're going to be either very light rain or dry in North City. Next 30 minutes. And then this heavy rain could still cause some issues to the southeast, and we will follow that. But right now, the issues of St. Louis Fire Department, first responders, reporting to multiple people trapped in vehicles in high-rising water, that seems to be happening really around the northern half of the city, parts of the Central West End, North City, and this I-70 Natural Bridge area right up to the city and county line. I'm going to switch over to the rainfall. What I did is I switched it from 48 hours to now just 6 hours, right? So this is really just capturing what's happened in the past few hours. And you'll see it's not as intense as it was earlier, but it still helps point out there's St. Louis, there's Central West End. Here is the yellow. That represents the 2 to 3 inches. It's just an estimate, but there might be still some spots. That 115, that's Natural Bridge. And then there's Interstate 70 in North City. That might be some spots that have gone around 3 to 4 inches. And that's where we're hearing a lot of the problems. This is Jefferson. Jefferson and what? What are we near here? This is one of our News 4 crews that is at Jefferson downtown, right around Market. Okay, thanks. Appreciate that. So they're just a little ways west of, for instance, of Union Station, Jefferson Market right there. And our crews are going to have to navigate. You know, there's going to be some roads that are just wet, ponding, and you're thinking, oh, this isn't a big deal. And then you're going to drive into a low-lying area that's just filled up because maybe the drain is clogged. And maybe the drain is clogged because of what happened to us earlier this week, 8 to 10 inches of rain. This would not be as bad of a situation if we didn't have what happened earlier this week. But here we are. So just for the short term, especially this area you see in yellow, from U-City, Central West End, it does go down to about 44. This would be Manchester, by the way. This is Highway 40, Interstate 64. There's the Inner Belt 170, all in that yellow of estimated 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. Over towards Granite City in the Metro East. And so this seems to be the corridor where we have the highest risk of a low-lying viaduct getting filled up with water and then someone, unfortunately, driving into it. Knowingly or unknowingly, but we hope unknowingly for most of these people. And we hope that we're here to make sure that you know, just stay off these roads for right now. Let the first responders do what they need to do. This is going to end. This is not like Tuesday where you get hit by one of these and then there's another one. Boom, hit by another. Call that training, where you get hit by multiple of these red storm cells, and the red, of course, being the really intense heavy rain. That's not going to happen, but the ground's saturated and we're just getting hammered. But it's getting better. Chesterfield's done. I mentioned that. Let's zoom in a little bit. Maryland Heights, heavy rain's done. Not quite in U-City, but it certainly has eased up, that's for sure. There's Creve Coeur. There were reports of 7 to 8 inches in Creve Coeur from Tuesday morning. Heavy rain's going to end shortly. There's the latest radar update. So this is all starting to shift to the southeast, and we'll have less and less issues. If you're in the Metro East, you're just getting hit with some of that heavy rain. You see the blotches of red. Let me give you an idea of what that is as far as rainfall rates. Not that it'll be over you for an hour, but 1.6. That's right around Belleville. There's a 1.78 and there's a 1.9. So bottom line is, these blotches of red are about 1.5 inches to almost 2 inches per hour. So if it's over you for just a half hour, you're going to get a quick inch of rain. on ground that had 8 inches on Tuesday morning. So you can see how it's pretty easy to cause some isolated, localized issues and flooding issues there. All right, so the good news is it's moving. The bad news is the damage is done and we've been hit. But that wider view, I do think gives you a little more perspective. Really heavy rain too in Sparta. Just a heads up on that. None of this is severe. It's all about the flash flood warnings and all about hitting areas that were hit so hard earlier in the week. The flash flood warnings, about 1.4 million people are in flash flood warnings. The one in the city, the reason why it has that dark band around it is I've tweaked the system to kind of let me know when it's been upgraded to observed. So we know indeed that there are water rescues, but that's basically what we've been reporting on. But that goes until 5:45. The other one here that's been extended to the Metro East, that goes until 7:30. The time is now for about the next hour and a half. That's really going to be the key because this is water that will go up and come down. Look at that guy. He's in a poncho riding his bike. He doesn't know if all of a sudden he's going to hit, a part of the road that just collapsed. Look at that spray too. So now we have to say don't drive into flooded out roads with your car or your bike, I guess we have to say. Where's that crew at, Tanya? I appreciate you helping me out with these live views.
14th.
That's 14th and Washington.
Sorry.
And Cass, okay. So this all lines up with where kind of the hardest hit areas are. And that's from pretty much near downtown and north, and especially North City. We've had reports in Central West End of some impassable roads. My guess is that Lindell Union, low-lying spot there. A lot of these are low-lying spots. And then there's Natural Bridge, and then there's I-70 in North City. Of course, there's downtown. Okay, so that's where the biggest problems are. And as some of that heavy rain goes south, one thing I want to do is check in on our BJC Skycams that can actually see some of these roads. That's, of course, the arch there. But let's switch over to I-55 near Butler Hill Road. This is Barnes Jewish Siteman, South County. I mean, no problems there. But here's the thing. You could be driving along, no problems. You get to a low spot, and boom, it's flooded up. The drain's clogged with debris. Maybe it's debris from earlier in the week. That's what we're dealing with. And I think that's why this can be a little tricky, and we're susceptible to maybe driving into issues and flooded out roads because you've been driving for 10, 20 minutes, and it's just been a little bit wet. Maybe you slowed down so you didn't have to hydroplane, and then all of a sudden you get to that low spot. That's what we're dealing with here. This isn't the Merrimack hasn't come out of its banks. That's not the situation. This rivers are not causing this. It's all about too much water, too little time, and poor drainage areas, low-lying spots. So what that means is the water tends to fill up quick, and it goes down quick too. We just happen to still be in the middle of it. And of course, I mentioned about 1.4 million people are in flash flood warnings. And most of those people, all of them, had over 6 inches of rain on Tuesday morning. That's why we're on the air. We're sensitive to the issues. People want to know what's going on, and we know we have issues as the fire department in St. Louis City has been rescuing motorists from rising and high waters. All right, that gives you, I think, a real good snapshot of where some of the heaviest rain. I'm going to back up because it has expanded. So let's zoom out a little bit. And this is I-70 in southern Madison County. This is the border between Madison and then St. Clair to the south. So some 2 to 3 inch rainfall estimates there. The reason I'm pointing this out, that's where the heaviest rain is starting to, well, not starting to, has moved to. The rain out here should be easy. I'm going to switch over to the actual rainfall. So like if you're 44 out around Maplewood, Crestwood, things should be getting, well, they're lighter. It's not red, but it is that the orange and some speckles of red. So that's like a 1/2 inch to 1 inch an hour versus, of course, 2 inches an hour. Live picture of those first responders, man. And we should take a second to say thank you because I'm sure they're exhausted from earlier in the week. Yeah, let me know where that is when you get a chance, Tanya. My producer, Tanya, is doing a great job of coordinating with all of our crews that are out there. But thanks to the first responders that are out there doing it again. And again, see how you could see part of the road was fine, and then part of the road is not. And it's you drive into the part that's low-lying, the drain clogged, and boom, you get water up into the wheel wells, and the car stalls, and now you've got the fire department coming out to help you. It's not like this is swiftly moving water because it's not part of a creek. It's not part of a river. But you've got too much water, too little time. This is 39th and Washington, by the way. This is exactly where we were highlighting with the rainfall estimate from SkyTracker Doppler radar of where some of the heaviest rain is. The heaviest rain has moved out of this area. I think you can see that. You still see some ripples in the standing water. It is still raining, yes. But as far as additional heavy rain causing more or worse problems, it's not going to happen here. It's not. That's good news. So I'm always trying to get some encouraging news in there. Maryland Heights, Florissant, the heaviest rain is done. Still decent rain, just not as heavy in Kirkwood, Afton. Some of the heaviest rain is in Belleville, O'Fallon, Lebanon, Illinois. Be very careful in areas where the water could quickly rise in those areas in the Metro East, because what hit here is now hitting you. If you're in Columbia, Illinois, steady, heavy rain, but not as heavy as what we were seeing in North City earlier. In fact, I would say in general, this whole storm cell is not as heavy. That's not to say it's not a downpour, it's just not as heavy. But again, you see that picture, 39th and Washington, not swiftly moving. That's a better situation. The bad situation is you still have people who need help. You have exhausted first responders from earlier in the week, and they're coming out again. And they're going to be there for you because they're great, and that's what they do. But the St. Louis Fire Department has responded to multiple vehicles in high water and rising water. All right, let's get a big picture here. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. This is storm mode coverage as we have flash flood warnings across St. Louis and the Metro East affecting 1.4 million people. And we're all very sensitive to flooding from earlier in the week. 8 to 10 inches of rainfall. Some spots got 12 inches. Catastrophic flooding. This is not that. This is not catastrophic or historic. It's a problem, though, because of the earlier week flooding and because this is dropping 1 to 2 or a little higher than 2-inch rainfall. Here's the good news. In many spots, the threat for any flooding is done. St. Charles County, you're done with any flooding. We checked in with the Weather Service about Dardine Creek, by the way, rising quickly, but they don't expect it to get to flood stage. That's good news, and the heaviest rain has moved out. And that's why this isn't the catastrophic situation from earlier in the week, because this thing is moving. This is an hour loop, by the way. So it just kind of resets and it shows you the direction that everything's moving. I wish it were moving quicker, but what I do notice is that it's not as heavy. That red, there's not as much of a solid line of red that represents the really heavy, like 2-inch per hour rainfall rates. We're not seeing that quite as much. Are they in there? Yeah. That's why I just mentioned Belleville, O'Fallon, Lebanon, right in here. You could be seeing some issues, but it does look like the heaviest rain has kind of shrunk a little bit, and it's moved out of North City. Speaking of which, we still have rain in North City, but as far as rainfall rate goes, I keep mentioning North City because that's really where we've had some of our highest issues. 0.29 inches an hour. It's a lot better than 2 inches an hour, right? So rain's still there, but I think the worst of it's over. And at this point, it's time for the first responders to do their job until that water comes down and help people. David Amilati is out on the roads and checking in on some of these flood issues. Where are you at, David, right now? What are you seeing?
Steve, we're still here at 14th and Cole, and we're seeing a huge sign of progress. If you take a look down, we couldn't see the sidewalk here the last time we checked in with you because it was covered in about 2.5 inches of water. Not the case now. In fact, if we even come to the curb now, I would say from the top of the curb down, we're 5 inches less of water. You're actually seeing water pouring back into the sewers. Take a look at the sewer actually across the street from us because we could not see this when we first got out here at 3 o'clock. And so you're seeing the rain lessen, as Steve has mentioned. We're hearing less thunder, we're seeing less lightning, and we're starting to see that rainwater run back into the sewer. It is bringing some trash along with that. There's trash in spots that wasn't there about 40 minutes ago. But as far as this intersection, you can pretty much see all of the pavement now, especially this sewer right here. I mean, when we were here with you, 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, Steve? This was pouring up 2 feet tall, and now this intersection is pretty clear, not even having any traffic to deal with. Maybe folks have already heard and seen our reporting saying to stay away from this intersection, but we're dealing with a case. That driver there got through with no problems whatsoever, and 20 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, it wasn't. That wasn't an option. You were having people go through 6, 7, 8 inches of water in some spots at this intersection. We'll send things back to you in studio, Steve.
David, thanks for the ground truth. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at the radar, and I'm just a dope with colors on the radar, but you're on the ground telling us, indeed, the water's going down. We really appreciate that. I can only tell so much from this. Our crews out there are doing it safely and letting us know what's going on. I also want to point out, he mentioned there was some debris coming into that sewer. That's the problem. The debris gets in the sewer, clogs it, and it goes up. Did you also see that kind of depressed circle? Maybe it was a manhole cover. It was depressed. Remember earlier we saw a guy riding his bike? What if he were riding in that and he didn't know that's there? I'm just telling you, you shouldn't ride your bike or drive into these flooded out roads because you just don't know what's underneath that water, how deep it is. Caroline Hecker is one of our crews that's out there as well, bringing us the ground truth. We really appreciate it. What are you seeing? Where are you at, Caroline?
We are at Vandeventer and Washington, and I can tell you within the last 5 minutes or so, Steve, it's actually opened up somewhat to through traffic. We're standing right here by a daycare. I was just talking with the owner. She said they've got kids. They're okay, but they are stuck inside because mom and dad can't come to get them right now. She said none of this happened here on Tuesday, but today of all days, she says she's got water now entering into the daycare. Just a little bit, she said, on the ground. Now, we've seen the fire department out here. They successfully pushed one car that was stuck out. Ooh, that car just hit something. Not sure what that was. But you can see people that are trying to go around the cars that have their hazards on. Some people have just left their vehicles, and I guess we'll come back for them. But very chaotic since it's open to through traffic. We've got some braver people that have driven through the floodwaters when it was a little bit higher. We've had a lot of people that were turning around, and for a while the fire department was blocking the intersection of Washington and Vandeventer so that cars could not go through. But you can see the confusion that's going on at this light here at Delmar and Vandeventer. People backing up, trying to go around some of these stalled cars. You can see that white car over there with its flashers on. See how high the water comes up to the wheel well almost. So it was a lot higher even 15 or 20 minutes ago, but it really has receded here in the last 5 minutes, Steve. But again, still a very serious situation out here, and hopefully these kids, their parents can come here and be able to pick them up safely.
That's Caroline Hecker reporting for us. Paige Halsey here with Samantha Jones as our team storm mode coverage continues. We are monitoring trouble spots, especially on the interstates throughout the St. Louis area. This right here is a live look from our MoDOT cameras near downtown. As you see, traffic just stopped in both directions because as that interstate goes down under that bridge, there is so much standing water that these cars are not driving through it, which is exactly what we want to see.
Right. This is what we're looking at right now is I-70, as you mentioned, into downtown. Right now we are looking at two sides of the highway here, both shut down, cars not getting through in either direction.
We have also received reports of trouble spots on Interstate 55 at 70 northbound in East St. Louis. That stretch is closed. IDOT telling drivers to take alternate routes, suggesting instead Interstate 64 eastbound. Again, that is over in Illinois.
A lot of road flooding that we're seeing. This from St. Louis City Police, the 4900 block of Labadie, Pershing and DeBolivar, just a few of the intersections with multiple vehicles reported underwater, though no injuries. Let's get you back over to Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Steve, what are you watching?
I'm watching the rain ease up. Like I said, this is not like Tuesday where you're getting hit by multiple rounds of this heavy rain. This is just one cell that fell with or put down about 1 to 2 inches of rain, and it fell on ground that was saturated from the 8 to 10 inches of rain that this area had from Tuesday morning. So this was made worse by Tuesday. If we didn't have Tuesday morning, I think this would be a heavy rain, ponding on the roads, hydroplaning, but probably not filling up low-lying spots. A lot of drainage issues too because of the Tuesday. But this is great news. I mean, look at the green we're starting to see. Green is the lighter rain, obviously, and that is major progress in an area that has been hit so hard. In fact, I would say right around the inner belt and 170 and 70 right here. I mean, you're about almost drying out. And then let me switch over to the estimated rainfall, and you'll see that just south of that area, that area is just about to dry out. Just south of that area is where we're seeing kind of the highest rainfall totals from U City down through, say, around Maplewood to around Afton. up 44. I haven't heard of any issues, and correct me if I'm wrong, Paige and Samantha, but I haven't heard of any issues in this area here from 44 and Highway 40, Interstate 64. It's really been contained here, and that would be radar estimated. So don't know how accurate it is, but it's probably pretty close to at least 3 inches of rainfall. And that 70, Natural Bridge, North City, that seems to be the hot spot where we've had the worst issues. But then you switch over to the current radar, and you'll see much lighter. In fact, just to give you an idea of how much rain is coming down, at least rain rate in that area, we're now down to hundredths of an inch, not even a tenth of an inch per hour. So any flood threat from additional rain is done in North City. The only problem is the water that's on the ground that's flowing into low spots continues maybe to create some rising waters. Now, where there's drainage, the waters are going to go down. David Amilati showed us that. But he also mentioned he saw some debris flowing into that sewer. That stuff gets clogged up, the water starts coming back up. So I still think avoid, especially this area of North City, I-70, Natural Bridge, just avoid driving in the area where we've had the most problems until we really get clear of the water going down. But as far as additional heavy rain, hey, we're done. We're done with it. Now, where is the threat for heavy rain that could cause some flooding? Well, I mentioned earlier Belleville, O'Fallon, Lebanon. It's still there. This is Highway 50 in St. Clair County. And this is Interstate 64. So I still see some high rainfall totals. Haven't heard of any issues. And hopefully we don't have any. Hopefully the drains are clear, low-lying spots are avoided, and then we're in the clear. Because again, this is really a flood that's caused by poor drainage, saturated ground from earlier in the week. This is not a river rising that continues to just put water in a spot. It's more about just the short term of the heavy rain hitting, ponding roads, creating hydroplane situation, flooding low-lying areas, and then boom, it goes away. And as soon as it goes away, everything settles down. So it goes up quick, it goes down quick. That is the flash in flash flood warning. It's about how quick it is. So flash flood warning tends to be, or flash flooding tends to be more dangerous because it happens quickly. You might be driving on a road and think you're just fine, and all of a sudden you get into some flooded out areas, and that's happened, of course, right here in this area of the flash flood warning. So these are 2 flash flood warnings that combined are about 1.4 million people. That's why we're on the air. I think we're all very sensitive to flooding after this week too. So we were on the live stream before this started, and then here we are on the live stream still and on News 4 with continuing coverage. In the Metro East, that's where we'll continue to watch for any issues. And Samantha, will you let me know if you hear of anything there? Because I haven't heard anything about Belleville, O'Fallon, Lebanon, but that's where the heaviest rain is, and maybe in the next 5-10 minutes, hopefully not, but maybe we start to hear something there. Although I got to tell you, so this is an hour loop. If we look at a 3-hour loop, I think you're going to see a lot more red on the map. Here we go. 3 hours. See how progressive it is? We use that term in weather. Progressive meaning it's moving. This was very different. That's Children's Hospital looking down at Kings Highway, by the way. Moving slowly, but moving. But this rain band is moving, different than Tuesday. That's why this is not going to be catastrophic flooding, widespread, but there's going to be some localized issues. We told you that last night, yesterday, even this morning. Localized, isolated issues because of heavy rain on saturated ground. But it is moving. Again, this is a 3-hour loop. And the heaviest of that rain is now into the Metro East. That the lighter rain is now into North City where we have the worst problems. And that's progress. Down 55, still some moderate rain there. In fact, we have a camera right there in South County from Barnes Jewish Siteman in South County. Give me a second, I'll pull that up. I just want to see what 55 looks like. Okay, spray, it's wet. Nope, but this is a high area. If you get into a low area, there could be some flooding, but Interstate 55, haven't heard of any issues. So I think your issues in South County, Northern Jefferson County are probably going to be more low-lying local roads. Roads maybe near a small creek that helped inundate a low spot. But even the creeks, they go up, they go down really quickly. Darting Creek in St. Charles County, haven't heard of any issues today. But that gives you, I think, a real good idea of where the heaviest rain fell. North City, that's Interstate 70. And that's where a lot of our problems have been surfacing, from basically about downtown to the north. But again, this is starting to kind of come to an end. And what's going to happen here is this light rain is not going to fill up low spots. And the drains are going to slowly drain. and traffic's going to start moving. Here we are at 3:53 now in the afternoon. So as we get into the rush hour, I think we're just dealing with some lingering problems, maybe a drain that still hasn't gotten unclogged. Those are going to be few and far between. This is not going to be the hot and heavy St. Louis Fire Department reporting motorists trapped here, motorists trapped here, motorists trapped. That was happening about 40 minutes ago. Things are starting to calm down, and that's good news. We still want to be very careful along Highway 50 in Illinois, Interstate 64, Metro East from Belleville over to Trenton. That's an area where you're going to get really heavy rain, and you're probably going to get some pounding in the roads. And see how that red is actually lining up right on 50 there, all the way out towards Centralia. That's a road I would just avoid for, if you can help it. If you're not going to, if you don't have to be on Highway 50 in Illinois for the next, I would say 20 minutes, just give it 20 minutes. It'll move on. It'll drain off. Those are Missouri DOT cams that we're checking. Behind the scenes, you're watching me with radar. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of people working hard to get views of where the bad spots are, let you know what's going on. Our crews are out on the streets providing the ground truth. I really appreciated Caroline's report, David's report. David Emilotti was showing us how the water had gone down. There was a drain he didn't even know was there. That's how high the water was. It was over the drain. He didn't even know it was there. And then about 20 minutes later, it goes into the drain, everything's done, and that's because the rain has eased. That's the situation we're going to be dealing with. Everything's going to start to be getting much, much better here as we get into rush hour. Got to say, timing-wise, too, it's good that it was now and not 5 to 6 p.m. Obviously, there's some folks that are trapped, and you see the Missouri DOT camera there in the upper, of that quad box, the 4 boxes, the one on the upper left looks like there's some traffic. So there's some friends, family, loved ones that are stuck on roads. I get that. But it could have been worse. This is moving. It's not like Tuesday, but there's still some issues, and that's why we stay on the air with 1.4 million people about in a flash flood warning right now. But I do want to be honest, I think this is going to get better quickly. St. Charles County totally in the clear now from any kind of heavy rain, and we haven't heard of any reports out there. Some of that heavy rainfall, estimated rain, came down into the Kirkwood, Webster Groves, Maplewood area. Especially Maplewood. I had a lot of issues on Tuesday morning. Haven't heard of any reports there. Paige Holsey and Samantha Jones are with me too. Just correct me, holler if you hear of something new. But that's good news. That tells me that the low-lying spots, the drains were cleared. It took on the inch, maybe 2 inches of water, and it's going to get better. I know you still see some yellow, but it's not red. That's the good news. We also have crews up in Florissant. News 4's Russell Kinsall is with us. Russell, where exactly are you at in Florissant, and what are you seeing?
I am on North Florissant. There's a shopping center, the Florissant Meadows Shopping Center, that flooded so heavily. But I'm right now, what you're seeing over my shoulder is a bridge that goes over Coldwater Creek. That creek is what flooded so much of North St. Louis County and this shopping center here in Florissant. I've been watching here, although the stoplight is out. What I'm watching here is to see whether or not any water is coming up and spilling over the banks or getting into the intersection. Right now, I am not seeing that at all. But on Tuesday, that river was rain swollen. It spilled out of its banks, and it created a river of water that rushed through this shopping center. Right now, though, I am watching, and I'm not seeing any water out of Coldwater Creek. But where I am right now is a shopping center that was inundated with flooding. Let me walk over here and show you what's happening right here now. There is a crew here, a property restoration crew, and they have been carrying bags of soaked merchandise and shelving out of this Walgreens that's now closed. They've been carrying, I guess, for the last 10 or 15 minutes. They have been carrying things out here to throw into this dumpster. It's a big, huge cleanup. The Walgreens is closed. There's a Save-A-Lot behind me. It's also closed. In fact, every single business in this shopping center was damaged by flooding, and most are now closed. A couple of them have reopened. Apparently some guy is spinning around in the parking lot on the wet pavement, and that's what everybody is watching right now. But at this point, we're not seeing any water coming up out of Coldwater Creek. Back to you guys.
Great news, Russell. Thank you. Appreciate it. Stay on the top of things all over the place. And we have multiple crews downtown, Russell's and Florissant. We also have the Missouri DOT cams too. And guys, there was a quad box we had up earlier. If you get a chance, can you pull that up full screen for me? I want to point out some things about where we actually do have some issues in spots that I hadn't heard of earlier, including along 64. One was around 64 and Tower Grove. And it looks like there's some traffic that stopped, and it looks like it was on the Tower Grove side. So that's a road that goes over 64. It's just west of Boyle. That's 64 and Highway 40. And then there was another one around 64 in Hampton where there were some issues too. We continue to report on these issues as News 4 at 4 o'clock starts right now.
Live from the KMOV Broadcast Center, News 4 is in storm mode.
Off the top at 4 here, the St. Louis Metro slammed with downpours and now more flooding. This video just sent to us from the Central West End, where you see those streets are covered. We also have a live look at Sky Tracker Doppler radar and downtown St. Louis as we monitor this rain. It does appear, though, that some of this flooding is receding now. We want to thank you for joining us. I am Paige Holsey.
I'm Samantha Jones. This rain coming as many still haven't dried out from the record-breaking flooding from earlier this week.
Our chief meteorologist, Steve Templeton, has been tracking it all.
We've been on the live stream, and then we've been on Channel 4 when it really started to get hot and heavy with motorists being rescued by first responders that were trapped in rising waters, not swiftly moving waters, but mainly low-lying areas and drainage spots that were clogged. And too much rain, too little time, it filled up. So we're going to be dealing with still some more heavy rain in the Metro East. I don't want to get away from that. Let me know if you guys hear of any reports like along Highway 50, Interstate 64, parts of St. Clair County. The good news I want to point out is while we do have about 1.4 million people in flash flood warnings here, it hasn't been extended farther to the east. So as you see Highway 50 right here into, that would be Clinton County off towards Carlisle, we're not seeing it extended at this point. That's great news. You're still probably going to end up with some ponding on the roads, and I would avoid small creeks. Don't let the kids, it's summertime, don't let the kids play near those creeks. But this really is the bigger area of concern because we know we've had some issues in some of those areas. Specifically, if I zoom in on St. Louis City, so there's downtown, this is radar estimating about 3 to 4 inches of rain, and the yellow of 2 to 3 is an area that we need to be careful about too. That goes from Granite City, Metro East, and into all around Maplewood, Webster Groves, and down to Afton and U City. If you do have that quad box from the Missouri DOT ready for me too, I'd love to show that because I did notice a couple spots. Thank you very much. Upper left there is Interstate 64, Highway 40, and that road that goes above it, that was Tower Grove. So it actually is the interstate where I'm noticing cars are moving, but boy, they're just inching. So that's 64 at Tower Grove. So that's the actual interstate. It wasn't Tower Grove that was having issues. It was the interstate. And that is, it's right near the Boyle exit. There's no exit there at Tower Grove. It just goes over the road, but it's right near the Boyle exit. So you're basically talking about the Central West End. And as you approach very near Barnes Jewish Hospital and Children's Hospital. In the upper right is 64 at Hampton. And you'll see how police have closed off an area there. And there's a live view from the BJC Skycam network. That's just a mess. The road that is underneath is the interstate, and it's not moving. And that would be traffic that is going westbound. So that'd be like you're going towards the zoo. The traffic that's going eastbound, and there's not much of it, but that does seem to be moving. Okay, then the road that's on top, that's Kings Highway. And it's a mess. So there must be a low spot somewhere where that has shut down Kings Highway. So you got to have two issues here. You have the interstate has an issue, and somewhere on Kings Highway must have an issue. What I want you to take from this, avoid these areas. And I would say just, avoid the roads in general around this area where I've highlighted in yellow and orange where the heaviest rain has fallen from downtown, especially Interstate 70 up in North City, Natural Bridge. There's 64. We were just talking about that area right around the Central West End. Major issues. Avoid the roads. Let the first responders help who they need to help. Or maybe they're just blocking off the road so people don't drive into the low-lying spots that have flooded. And those low-lying spots that have flooded, they're going to start to drain. Let me back up a little bit because this is kind of new. This is a newish estimated area of 2 to 3 inches, and it stretches down through Afton into 55. Our camera, which is a little farther south down there on Butler Hill Road, didn't show any issues, but maybe like around 55 and let's say Loughborough, that area, there could be some issues. That's where you would have more of the 2 to 3 inches of rain. The Holly Hills area, for instance, and then getting into South City, very near say around Dutchtown and to Soulard. So that rainfall estimate, I think, just gives you an idea of where the heaviest rain is. Let's avoid those roads, even though if I switch over to the actual rain, it's much lighter. The heaviest rain is done. It's over for St. Louis. It's over in the Metro East, and it's actually more like Mascoutah to Germantown, Trenton, and over towards getting towards Carlisle as well. So that is where the heaviest rain is. Lighter rain now. So additional flooding from additional rain is not going to happen, but we need the water to clear. What did you say there, Emily? I've got my producer talking to me. Okay, we've got some new information coming in. I just had to turn it up so I could hear you guys. Paige Holsey and Samantha Jones are on the desk, and they've got some new information. What's the latest?
Yeah, Steve, you've been talking about the Central West End. Let's head a little bit east of that. Our Caroline Hecker is in Midtown Forest. Caroline, you have quite the scene there with what's been picked up by these floodwaters.
As we've shifted a little bit west, we're at Delmar and Lake, just west of the Central West End, and you're right, there is a couch that has somehow appeared in the middle of the road behind us. You can see that black car, it's nose deep in the water. The gentleman standing by that white van, when he was standing closer to the street sign, it was about thigh deep. So you can see there's been trash cans that have been overturned. We did see one truck. I don't know if this Metro bus is going to try to make it here. We're probably going to get wet. So that gives you an idea, though, for a frame of reference, how deep the water is as this Metro bus drives through. Right here at Third Degree Glass Factory, the parking lot is underwater, but it has receded a little bit, I should say. But you can, again, see how much water is here. There's people still turning around down, heading westbound, or eastbound, I should say, on Delmar. But the water has been coming down slowly, but this is some of the highest water we have seen. We earlier were over at Vandeventer and Washington, closer to Slough, and we talked there with a daycare owner who had children inside, all safe, but she said water was starting to seep into one of her playrooms. Here's a little bit of our conversation.
We have some water in one side of the building, but it's not to the level where kids is threatened by it. You know, we have our maintenance guy in there taking care of that. I don't know. We just got to wait and see what's going to happen. We're praying. I believe God. I pray with my babies every day, so I just know he's going to watch over us. So.
Now, right now on Delmar going westbound, the fire department is blocking traffic, so cars are turning around. There are also flashing lights down at that end. You see this gentleman walking here. You can see how deep it is there, on about thigh deep. So this is really deep water. Again, following like what Steve said, Tuesday's rain, this is just making things far worse. This Third Degree Glass Factory, the parking lot is flooded. I'm wondering if the inside of that building has got to be taking on water, because when you look at the sidewalk, you can see how deep that water is. But again, a lot of trash being turned up as a result of some trash cans being overturned. We've got debris obviously here in the middle of the road, so there will be an extensive cleanup process following this downpour this afternoon. But again, traffic is very slow moving in the city. There's a lot of cars, a lot of congestion, a lot of people trying to turn around, not trying to pass through some of this flood water. So if you're out, if you have to be out, just be careful, guys.
And as Caroline mentioned, today's rain coming on the heels of the historic rainfall on Tuesday and the flooding that followed. So many families still trying to clean up from that. In fact, today our Russell Kinsall has been with agencies trying to reach out and help those families cleaning up from Tuesday. He joins us now live with yet another round of help that will be needed. Russell.
Yeah, right now I'm at a shopping center that's on North Lindbergh and Washington in Florissant. It was hit really hard by flooding. Right behind me is a Walgreens that's been closed. We've been watching a restoration crew bring bag after bag after bag of ruined merchandise to fill up that dumpster right there. A little bit earlier, we met up with a team from the State Emergency Management Agency. They're going around assessing the damage to get together a full extent of just how much damage was caused by the flooding to pass along to the federal government in hopes of getting more help for flood victims through FEMA.
my heart just goes out to them because they have been devastated. They put everything they've had into these small businesses, and now they've lost everything. Now what the goal is hopefully to get them some help.
The Florissant Meadows Shopping Center was inundated with almost a foot of water on Tuesday. Every business in the shopping center was damaged and most are still closed. State officials and county officials have teams of people in the field to see and detail the types of damage and the extent of the damage. It'll be important to have a good estimate of the dollar amount of damage to help convince the White House to declare a presidential declaration and to help FEMA determine the types of financial assistance to provide. That could be grants, low interest loans, or possibly reimbursement for the cost of cleanup and repairs.
So what will happen is if our residents are approved for financial assistance, FEMA will send in their teams. They will set up centers, assistance centers, and our residents who've suffered the damage will actually go to those centers, sit down with FEMA representatives, and fill out the application.
So if you've had a car, a house, or a business that had flood damage, you really need to call 211. That way that you'll be on the list for them to come out and see the extent of the damage there. Also, if you have other needs like clothing or a place to stay, then you'll be connected with a charitable organization that can reach out to you to provide some assistance. So call 211. They also have an 800 number that rings the same place. That's the United Way. It's 800-427-4626, or you can fill out a form online at 211helps.org. Live in Florissant, Russell Kinsall, News 4.
Russell, thank you. And in St. Charles County, teams out there determining how much damage has been done to homes, apartments, condos, and businesses in neighborhoods across the county. And that includes this area in St. Peters, where a levee breach poured water into homes and fields.
They're going to identify which neighborhoods are going to need personal assistance the most. And so that will be the next step for people needing assistance from the state and potentially from the federal governments.
And cleanup continues in University City tonight. Coming up on Monday, residents can sit bulky items by curbs for pickup. Plus, dumpsters will be out in neighborhoods and subdivisions that were severely impacted by flooding.
Now, if you are still in need of help in the wake of these devastating floods, News 4 has compiled a list of resources for you. Just head to the KMOV News app or KMOV.com to find that list.
And this was a common sight at the start of the week. Cars overtaken by floodwaters. It can leave lasting damage, and with the current car shortage, used cars are a hot ticket item for many in need of a new vehicle.
So how can you be sure that the car you're looking to buy doesn't have that lasting flood damage? News 4 always watching out for you, and our Kristen Cornett is in O'Fallon, Missouri right now getting an answer to those questions for us. Kristen.
I'm at Schaefer Auto Body out here in O'Fallon, and if you look at this beautiful BMW, I mean, it looks totally fine, right? Well, guess what? This vehicle has already been deemed a total loss by the insurance company. It could, this one won't, but there are some water-ravaged vehicles out there that may, by some unsavory folks, get put onto the used car market. We want to avoid that happening to you. So I want to bring in Nick. He is with AAA. You're going to show us a few things to look for. What do we not want to see in a used vehicle?
Yeah, it's especially important in the next few months, you know, in our area, just because we have so much widespread damage from the flood, to look out for used cars that may look okay, but may have been in some flood water recently. So the first thing, when you open the door, if it smells like a musty basement, that's an indication that the vehicle has had some water in it. That could be your first sign. If you look at the floor mats, this is obviously a newer vehicle, but you can see just how wet this foam got. It expanded. There's a lot of electrical components underneath the floor mats, underneath the carpeting that probably got wet. If you're looking at an older vehicle and the upholstery has been replaced or the carpet's been replaced and it doesn't quite match the age of the vehicle, that could be a sign that it's gotten some water.
Okay.
Even underneath by the pedals here, by the brake pedal, that's a very hard area to clean. If you can find some mud underneath there, could be a sign it's been in some water.
Okay, let's take a look at the engine, because I know there's a few things there too that you might want to be on the lookout for.
Yeah, and that's, you know, really what this vehicle's about is you know, water got into the engine, and even after driving it for a little bit, that was when they realized that water was in here. So it may not be apparent right away. It could even be years or months after the fact that it's gotten wet, but also paying attention to the frame inside the engine here, you can see there's a little bit of mud sitting there. That's an area that can be hard to clean for folks trying to resell. Just kind of those sneaky areas where the mud might get in that people might not think about.
All right, very good. Thank you for those tips. Really, really good tips for folks out there, maybe in the used car market, which we know is very hot right now. now. Live from O'Fallon, Kristen Cornett, News 4.
Okay, Kristen, thank you. Let's get back outside. We're going to check on our MoDOT cameras here to get a look at how traffic is. It looks a little bit better, moving along at least at this point. A couple of different views for you of traffic moving through the metro. We've seen a number of interstates shut down. It does still look like 70 at Grand is still shut down in the eastbound direction. Otherwise, traffic getting along okay. Steve, what are you seeing?
Heaviest rain has moved out of St. Louis. Things are going to get better, but there's, of course, some loved ones still stuck on the roads. But you see in the latest radar there, heaviest rain now off of the east in Illinois. I'll detail what to expect for the rest of tonight, tomorrow, some dry time. That's some good news. And get you ready for the weekend coming up.